The Honourable Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I return from our National Party conference. 700 delegates positive about New Zealand, confident about New Zealand. 700 New Zealanders with names that may sound they come from all sorts of countries. 700 delegates included names that may sound Chinese, that may sound Scottish, that may sound Irish, that may sound Eastern European, that may sound Southern American, that may sound anything at all. 700 New Zealanders, Mr Speaker, confident about where this country can go, where we are taking this fine, awesome country, and 700 delegates looking forward to the future, united in our aspiration and what we need to do to help continue to grow our country, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, excellent sessions throughout the conference on all sorts of topics. I was particularly intrigued in the one that the Honourable Paula Bennett ran, where people were texting questions in, and she kept getting texts from someone called Andrew asking interesting questions. And we just weren't quite sure if it was Andrew Little texting in or not. Mr Speaker, I was part of an economic session with the Honourable Bill English, Stephen Joyce, Paul Goldsmith and myself. We had a lot of discussions, wide-ranging, but one point was noted. So I actually posed it to the next Labor Speaker. There was confusion. We talked about the 90-day trial, and we were uncertain and unsure what Labor's position was on the 90-day trial. So if Labor were to form the next government, would they repeal the 90-day trial, or how would they modify it in some way, as Mr Little seemed to allude to the other day? And, Mr Speaker, at the conference, we celebrated trade. We celebrated free trade. We celebrated the advancements that New Zealand has taken over many years as we often lead the world as a small but confident trading nation. We're reminded about CER, which the Greens didn't seem to know existed. We were reminded about the China FTA, initiated, a lot of the hard work done by the previous Labor government, ratified under the national government, went from about $2 billion of trade from New Zealand to China to, I think we're about $11 billion now over just a few short years. The China FTA that helped haul New Zealand out of the global financial crisis. We talked about the Taiwan Closer Economic Partnership. The Taiwan Closer Economic Partnership, which took a 20% tariff for New Zealand apples off the shelf, off the table, overnight. New Zealand apple growers now no longer face a 20% tariff going into Taiwan. What better example of a free trade agreement helping the region such as Hawke's Bay than the Taiwan? The Republic of Korea FTA, wiping 45% tariffs from New Zealand exports. And Labor seem to now be opposed to free trade. TPP we talked about, PPA, very close, down to the wire. I most certainly hope we get there. Because the logic or the illogic of the arguments on the other side against TPPA, if they were to be true, we should apply them to all other trade agreements we had. If we do not export, we cannot deliver this country's social and economic aspirations. If you've got to pay the bucks, you've got to earn the bucks, Mr Speaker. What has happened to Labor when they were strong at the peak of Helen Clark in around 02? Fresh after the apology to the Chinese community, pursuing free trade agreements around the world, aspirational, trying to move up on the OECD ladder, and listen to them now, anti-trade, stirring the racial pot. It's disgraceful, Mr Speaker. Absolutely disgraceful, but as TV reporters said, if they want to play that card, they've got to own that card. Interestingly, they seem to have quietened down on it, actually come out and apologise to all New Zealanders, whatever their sounding name, for the disgraceful lurch they took into the gutter of politics. Thank you, Mr Speaker.